Today we're heading down to Tribeca to see a few things that are all right next to each other. We're gonna see an old firehouse. We're gonna see the site of a Dutch colonial freshwater pond. We'll see the site of a colonial African burial ground. And then the building that was the first department store. That's a lot. If you're just finding this channel, I pick places in New York to go explore, and I take you with me. So let's grab the queue and head downtown. Let's go. Like I said last time, remember they're going to be getting rid of these R46 cars with the orange and yellow seats. This is the last year for them. By the way, I just missed the downtown train. This one's uptown. So I'm waiting. Well, that one wasn't in service apparently. I'm out of the subway, downtown, Chinatown, I believe. I didn't have my bearings and I kind of walked around in a circle there crossing streets. Now we're in the right direction though. This is Firehouse Engine Company number 31. It's an old fire building built in 1895, styled after a 16th century French chateau. It's pretty cool looking. The fire department vacated it in 1972 and is now occupied by the Downtown Community Television Center. Beautiful building. All right, next stop is a park that's this way. This is how things go here. Came in for the perfect shot of the park right there, and a corrections bus parked right in front of it as I was walking up. So we'll keep walking. So this is Collect Pond Park, and it's not much of a park right now, but this is the site of the old Collect Pond, which for the first 2 centuries of European settlement in Manhattan, this was the main freshwater source for the communities. After it became too polluted from all the industry that developed around it, they filled it in. And then in 1838, they built a jail here. In the 20th century, it was turned into a park, turned over to the Parks Department in 1960. And then this park was rebuilt and reopened in 2014. And they got the little pool in the middle to remind us the history here of this being Collect Pond before. Again, it's the winter, so it's not great right now, but you can see what's about to happen. These are all the tulip buds that are popping out. It's going to be beautiful. And we're surrounded by all sorts of courthouses and city buildings. We're also near City Hall. That's about where we're going to end up today. All right, the next park is just down the street. It would have also been underwater in Collect Pond. This is Thomas Paine Park. It's not much to speak of. Nice little park. It's in the middle of all these courthouses. And it's also part of what used to be Collect Pond a long time ago. It's got the state Supreme Court, federal courthouse, City Hall's that way, Thurgood Marshall, David Dinkins buildings right there. This is something. This is also known as Foley Square. And what used to be here after the Collect Pond was the 5 Points area, which is where all the gangs lived. You know, like gangs of New York, Leo, you know what I'm talking about. All right, moving on. Next stop is kind of somber. African Burial Ground Memorial. Look at that old Federal Express sign. This is the African Burial Ground Memorial. This site contained the remnants of more than 419 Africans buried in the late 17th and 18th centuries here in Manhattan. This is just part of the largest colonial era cemetery for people of African descent, some of them free, but most of them enslaved. This site is New York's oldest known African American cemetery, and studies show there were probably about 15,000 African Americans buried here. The city closed the cemetery in 1794, and then they covered it over and started to develop around here. And over time, people forgot that it was here. The first large-scale development in this area was A.T. Stewart's department store, which we're going to go see next. And during the construction of that, they found a few remains, but they figured it was just a small-scale burial place. The modern discovery of this was in 1991 when they were preparing to build the Weiss Federal Building, which is right next to me. In 2006, it was declared a national monument and turned over to the National Park Service, and all of this was dedicated in 2007. This is the Weiss building right here, and there's actually now a permanent museum dedicated to this in the first floor. This is A.T. Stewart's Marble Palace, also known as the Sun Building. First opened in 1846, A.T. Stewart built it. This is widely believed to be the first department store in the country. He was a dry goods retailer. Merchandise was sold across multiple levels in multiple departments, which is where the department store idea comes from. In 1879, he moved uptown, and the building was leased by different people for a while. And then the newspaper The Sun moved in 1917, but it wasn't renamed the Sun Building until 1928. After World War II, Henry Modell opened a sporting goods store here, selling leftover wartime surplus. His store, Modell's Sporting Goods, is still around. The Sun continued to be a major tenant until 1950 when it was bought out by the New York World Telegram. The city wanted to tear this building down in the 1960s, along with a bunch of other buildings around here. Fortunately, they did not. You can see on the corners, they still have the Sun clocks there. It's a pretty nice historic building. We're also right near City Hall, and behind this building is where I met up with a tour group to go on the City Hall subway station tour. Check that out if you haven't seen it. Also gotta love all these cast iron buildings down in this part of town. It was called the Marble Palace because it was one of the only buildings at the time that was clad in marble. It's pretty nice. And it made history because no one had ever seen a store like this before. It was just enormous. Now we're back by City Hall. We got the Tweed Courthouse right there. City Hall is right behind it, and City Hall Park is on the other side of that. The Immigrant Savings Bank is another one they wanted to tear down in the 1960s when they were going to get rid of this one. Fortunately, that one's still here too. Marble Palace, pretty cool building. I think that's it for now. Let's go find the subway. We know right where it is. Brooklyn Bridge City Hall Station. So this is the back of City Hall. The story is when they built it, this was one of the most northern parts of the city. And so they didn't spend a whole lot of time making the back very fancy because they thought, who's gonna live on this side of the City Hall? Little did they know. I'm back up to the east side after a fun little trip downtown. Got to see a few cool little sights. Be sure to check out all the rest of the episodes already available on Up to the East Side on YouTube. Look for new episodes every Friday. Be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Thanks for coming with me to explore New York City. I'll see you next time.